Another one on that Nova or Acadian, or I guess it depends who you are, where you are. It's a different thing. But I picked up some tubular control arms. It's these guys here, a full set. And I thought I'd just go toss them in, and of course they don't quite fit. It seems like this and this need to come in. So not by much though. So I got one of those frame straightening units. This guy here. If you've been around the channel for a while, and it was a while ago, I've only ever used this thing once. But we're going to try and use it again today. And see if I can open those spots up a little bit. So it's this system here. It's got this duckbill end on it. I'll stick it in there. I just want to try and get this done before my brother gets here. He's going to come over and give me a hand today. Everybody else thinks that you can't do this without the engine on here. So I wouldn't say I'm going to prove them wrong, but we're going to find out. Let's put it that way. Because I don't know either. But stick that in there and see what happens. Oh, let's tighten that up. I'll try and get a little bit on each side. Hey, that side looks pretty good. This side, it's just this side that needs to come over. Yeah. That looks like that's going to work. That needs to come over. I think I'm going to throw some hearing protection on and just hammer on that and see what I can do. Still got quite a ways to go. So I got her flipped over. Lower control arms are now lower. And now we can look at installing the upper control arm. Then we'll do the spindle after that. So what I want to do is I'll make sure I get the right one on the right side. You can just check your geometry, make sure this is going to line up with that. If I did this on the other side, it would not even be close. So here, let me show you. I'm sure most of you already know, but some guys are doing this stuff for the first time. So if you were to try and put this on the wrong one, you can see that ain't gonna work. So you don't have to worry about that. If you put the lower on the wrong side, it's not going to line up with the coil spring. And if you put the wrong upper on the wrong side, it's not going to line up with the lower. So makes it pretty simple. If you're real smart, smarter than me, which isn't hard, you would buy new hardware. I didn't. It's not really available to me locally. So I'm just firing in the old stuff, which still looks pretty good, to be honest. Look at that. Nothing wrong with that. Cleaned right up. So get that in there. Just give her a little love tap. There we go. And it's got these zip straps on there for retainers. The question I have is, are we supposed to move it, change that one or change the other one? Let me show you what I'm talking about here. So this one's to the inside and that one's to the outside. Am I sure about that, or should that one be to the outside and this one to the outside and that one to the inside? I'm going to look it up right now and see if I can find an answer, and I'll give you an answer. Okay, so if you look, this is not going to fit on like this. It needs to be adjusted. So what I did on that one, on the other driver's side, so I flipped it over on the front. I believe this is the difference between the Nova and the Camaro control arms. And then you look now it'll fit. So now I can drop this guy off. And this should slide over. No problem. Don't embarrass me in front of my friends. There we go. Okay, you got it. All right. There we go. All right. So, I have a good memory, but it's short. Notice there's these shims stacked up in here. I don't know if they're the ones that were on there before or not. This is why, for a guy like me, it's good to either take pictures, which I didn't, write it down, which I didn't, or have a good memory, which I don't. At any rate, it should be good enough to get me to the alignment shop, I hope. Once this is all installed in the Acadian, we'll take it down to the alignment shop and get it taken care of properly. I'm just hoping they don't, really give it to a guy because of the tubular control arms. I don't know what to expect on that front. I've never gone this route before. If you have and you don't mind sharing your experience in the comments, I'd love to hear it. Because I'm wondering if they're gonna tell me it took longer because it's aftermarket control arms and all the rest of it. I don't know. But I'm expecting that if I think it's a, Canadian Tire or something basic. If you know someplace in Edmonton to take this, where there's still real car guys, that'd be great. All right, that's on. Now I'll run you through my plan. My plan is to get this this coil spring started by compressing it with this coil spring compressor, but not all the way down, just enough so we can get it in probably to about there. At which point I'll run a strap over it to hold it, remove the coil spring compressor, because these ones don't work so great with the Nova Camaro front end. And then once I run a ratchet strap up here to hold it, I'm gonna run this guy through here. And the way this is gonna work is I'll take this off, I'll run it through this hole up here and down through here using this piece of a shock mount. I'll run that through there. I'll mount the shock mount to the bottom, and then we'll tighten this up here with a few washers on here, and we'll be able to walk you through all of this real quick like here. So I got my brother Russ, and of course Jacob, and we're gonna rip through this pretty quick. So I'm just gonna throw you guys on time lapse, and me and the crew will get this done lickety split. Take this here, put that through there, and run it up through the bottom here. Okay, so that's what we got from the bottom. And then from the inside, it just basically looks like this. Okay, so now Russ will slide that down from the top. Oh, hold on, where's the nut? So we'll put these two nuts on the bottom, or sorry, actually just one, just a lock nut. Just tighten that up. Okay. So it's important to remember to stack a few washers up here and put some grease on them, because they're going to ride against each other. And you'll probably start dragging this top one. So it's good to put some grease in between the top one and the second one, because it's going to drag. Inside here, we got that coupling between the eye bolt on the bottom and this piece of ready rod. You must make sure you put some lock nuts on either side, otherwise this thing will begin to unthread, and you don't want that. Like when you go to take it off or put it on, you don't want this thing unthreading, you just want it to work. So I got a long piece of ready rod here. It's longer than it actually needs to be. I should probably mark it and cut it for where I actually need it, but I haven't done that yet. So my brother Russ just threads it all the way down without a single complaint. What the? Bottomed out there. Jacob's just going to tighten her up. And that will draw up this lower control arm. And there you go. The safest way to do it? Nah, not even close. But we got her done. Once again, don't do what we do, because you know we're not very smart or very safe. But sometimes a guy needs to do what he's got to do. And I was told this you couldn't do this without the motor and transmission in, but as you can see, no motor or transmission. This is going to take 3 bolts. We're going to put on the dust shield and the caliper bracket. Now if you look at these two bolts, you can see we got a longer one and a shorter one. So the longer one goes to the caliper. So the caliper goes up, like the caliper bracket rather, goes up like this. And then you'll take a short little bolt we pulled out of the top here. So the short bolt goes in here. Let's get that started. Again, your longer bolt goes on this side, and your shorter bolt goes on this side here. Now, so on my cheap kit anyway, you need to reclaim this from your drum brakes. So, put a couple of these. These are nylon locking nuts. I don't know if it'd be my first choice, but it's what they gave us. So we're just going to go with it. Toss those guys on there. And grab a couple wrenches. And we'll tighten this all down. Okay. Okay, so for the back bearing, I like to put a little grease in here. And then after I've packed my bearing, I do mine by hand. I don't even show people anymore because I get so much grief over it. But there's many cheap bearing packers out there. Get yourself one. They work good. I'm old school. I like just doing it by hand. There's nothing wrong with either way. You want to do it with the bearing packer? Go ahead. There's nothing wrong with it. They're cheap. You can get them at Harbor Freight or Princess Auto. I don't know, $5. They're not a lot of money. And they work good. All right, so that's the back one, and this is the seal. So you just tap that seal in, and you're good to go there. And then on this side, this race is already here. Same deal, I'm just gonna add a little bit of grease here. Also like to just put a little bit inside. I don't know if it ever finds its way anywhere, but if it does, great. If it doesn't, no harm, no foul. So now we have that guy there. All that's left is this guy, and it should be a cotter pin. All right, I'll have to go get a cotter pin. And this is the cap. The cap just goes on there after it's installed. And I usually like to kind of keep my stuff in there. That way I'm not looking for it. So let's go ahead and get that slapped on too. So now we're just going to slide this guy up and on here. Careful you don't grab that seal on any of the threads here, because you'll rip it and yeah, you'll have a bad day. So we'll get this guy on, your washer, and then we'll toss this guy on. It seems like everybody has their own way of doing this. I'll show you mine. Maybe you can tell me yours. That's where we want to be, right there. So once you're happy with where it ends up, I'm happy there. Let's go ahead and get this cotter pin in here, get that folded over. I don't care how you fold it over, it doesn't really matter. All that matters is this nut can't back itself out. That's all I care about. Now I'm putting on these dust caps. Man, you can chase them around a million times. What I do is I just grab a socket big enough to catch the lip, and it just goes on like that every time. It sits nice and flush, never end up with a dent here, never end up with a random dent in here from trying to tap her in, chase it around. There we go. We're solid. All right. Moving on. Let's get this caliper on. Now, this caliper, if you're ever doing brakes and you're not sure you got these are marked L and R, typically. If you're ever not sure if you got the right one, it's real easy to find out. If your bleeder screw is not at the top, you don't got it on the right spot, period. And then just tighten these up. These are typically a 3/8 Allen. You just tighten these two, and that's all there is to it. Caliper goes on. There we go. Money in the bank right there. So now our Nova, our Acadian, will now have disc brakes. We'll now have tubular control arms. This is a subframe I got for free, so it made sense to take the time and clean it up and get all the rust off of it. You know, paint it, even though it's just brush painted, you know, nothing fancy. And looks pretty damn good, I'd say. I hope you agree with me. If not, you can let me know in the comments. For the spindle, I decided just to clear coat it. I was going to paint it black, but I didn't want to get black paint on the ball joints and everything else. I want to keep it looking somewhat fresh. So there you go. We got new disc brakes, new ball joints, tubular A-arms, control arms, springs, the whole 9 yards there, the whole shooting match. At least now it's easy to move in and out of the garage. This thing is nice and lightweight, at least. Let me see if I can show you. Okay, it takes almost no effort at all. I'm wheeling this thing around. So I was kind of working in the garage around this contraption. It was eating up pretty much half of my garage. And now, hey man, whenever I want, I can just throw it outside. Maybe I'll just get it installed. You're right, that's a good idea. Anyway, stuck around this long. Do me a favor, think about subscribing. And join me when I stick a motor and transmission on this thing and slide it in there in one shot. No more sliding the motor and tranny in that way. We're going to throw it on here, just slide her under. Join me and we'll do it together, okay? Thanks, guys.